Now in 1992, I was still living in Thailand. I was still acting as a tour guide at Khao Yai National Park, but you know, like every chance I got, I took I'd be off somewhere else on my travels. Jeff was living out there at that time. You know, Jeff, one of the guys I'd met the year before on Koh Samui, he was still living there at Freddie's guest house. And we used to love going out together. You know, we used to go to Patpong or, you know, Nana Plaza, Soi Cowboy, wherever. And Jeff was quite entertaining to go out with, you know. He just like, he had this kind of naivety that I think was perhaps a bit put on. But I just remember him sitting with this lady. He loved this lady, and he'd go and see her night after night and buy her beers. And sort of like one night he asked if he could take her out, and her answer was no, but you can marry me for 40,000 baht. I remember he was a bit taken back by that. Yeah, this is just a picture taken in one of the go-go bars, and I really can't remember which one. Yeah, just some more pictures that I took in the go-go bars. I mean, look how skinny everybody was in those days. Looking at these pictures, you know, I wish I'd taken more, because like I said at the time, sort of like nobody really cared, you know, like times have definitely changed. Even more go-go bar pictures. Well, you know what they say in Thailand, not everything's what it seems, and I think that's what's going on in this picture of a lady dancing. And one night Jeff got talking to this lady boy, and I remember him saying to her, "You're nicer than a real woman." One of the few English pubs and restaurants in Bangkok at that time was the George and Dragon, which used to be in a car park just off of Patpong 2. And this is myself and Tong there. And every Sunday afternoon, myself and my good friends Mike and Steve used to go over to Lumpini Park, and we'd like while away the afternoon. You know, I used to take one of those little portable cassette players, you know, and this was a picture taken then. And this picture was taken at a restaurant called Dam Nak Thai, which at that time was the largest restaurant in the world, and it was in Bangkok. I seem to recall just off of Asok, you know, and the place was really huge, you know, and it was built with all these kind of like wooden alleyways, and it was over a lake that was full of these huge koi carp, and the waiters used to wear roller skates so they could get around everywhere quicker. And I remember on one occasion we did actually see a waiter with a full tray fall over, you know, so it did used to happen from time to time. But it was a fantastic place. It was an excellent place to go and visit, and the prices were very reasonable. But it closed very soon after, I think definitely within a year of these pictures being taken. And this was also taken at Dam Nak Thai, you know, the largest restaurant in the world, and they used to have like live Thai dancing shows, you know. It was excellent value for money. And this is Tong in our room at Freddie's guest house on Soi Si Bump End. Literally spent years in that place. Now Tong had never left Thailand before, so I took her on one of the visa runs that we did, and this is me and Tong in Penang. Now you might remember that back in 1988 and 89 my friend Perry came out to Thailand with me. Well, in the meantime Perry had been working back in England, and he'd got married to a lady called Jane, and they're still married to this day. And for their honeymoon they flew out to Thailand. Now Perry used to work for British Airways, so you know they heard that they just got married and they flew them out first class, which was really nice. Now what we did was they spent the first week on their own on Koh Samui, and then myself and Tong went down and joined them. Now this was taken up in Isan, I think somewhere near Ban Pang, Bungan, around that way. Just a bus had come off the road somehow. I just thought this was kind of strange, you know, this vehicle sort of pulled along by cattle in Isan. And here's another picture of the same cart. Now I can't remember where this picture was taken. It might have been Pak Chong, but it was me trying the dakaden, you know, the fried locusts for the first time. And this picture of Tong's family was taken on one of the visits we made to a village in Suphanburi. And this is another one of the pictures that I took in Tong's village. And this is a picture I took of Tong back in her village. And here's a nice picture of Tong with her father. And this is myself and Tong in her village. Again, myself and Tong in her village. Another picture of me at the bridge on the River Kwai. In those days, they used to have these like really loud kind of like disco boats that used to float down the river, and they were so loud, you know. You used to get, in the middle of the heat of the day, you get these big square rafts floating down with like loudspeakers on, all these Thai people dancing. It was just absolutely crazy. And this is my friend Rob at the bridge. Now myself and Rob visited Sangkhlaburi again, and we went to the Three Pagodas Pass border crossing point, thinking that, you know, we might be able to get back into Burma, but this time they wouldn't let us. So this is me at that crossing point, border crossing point. And this quite unusual temple in Sangkhlaburi is one of the places that they used to use as settings for the Chinese kung fu movies, you know. And I remember in Thailand at that time, quite often you'd see some kung fu movie and you'd think, oh yeah, I recognise that. Now by this time, the original wooden bridge that was, you know, was originally made of tree trunks had fallen down, and they were rebuilding a better one. And when we were up in Sangkhlaburi, they were building the second bridge, and these are some pictures that I took. And this was taken from the road bridge that's in the centre of town, looking down towards the wooden bridge. Again, that's myself and Rob on the road bridge. Again, pictures of them constructing the second wooden bridge. I don't know, I think they're on the third or fourth now, but this was the second one they were building. And this was just a sign that somebody chalked into the bridge, because it was just you could have ridden your bike along it, but it just suddenly like ended like about 100 metres in. And Rob could sing and play a bit, so I got him to play at a bar somewhere. I can't remember exactly where. And this is myself at the entrance to Khao Yai National Park. I was still working there at that time. And this is the mist that you get in the mornings, you know, above the tree canopy at Khao Yai. And here's a picture of a deer. And this is Mike on one of our tours. He was a lot of fun, you know. He was great at keeping the tourists entertained. And here's a picture of a hornbill in mid-flight, you know. I love watching hornbills fly, you know. They're so prehistoric with that kind of giant beak, and they're so large that when they fly across the sky, you can hear the woof, woof, woof sound as the wings beat through the wind. Now something happened that year in the hot season. It was April, and we were up in Khao Yai, which is quite high up, and it started to rain, and the rain got really heavy, and it was getting really cold and really cool. And then all of a sudden the rain turned into hailstones. And to this day, it's the only time I've ever seen hailstones in Thailand, and it was in the hot season. And the Thai people just couldn't believe it, you know. They were just staring at their hands, you know. They were gathering these hailstones in their hands and looking at it, you know, in a state of disbelief. And we took this picture of a couple of our tourists at the Pa Diodai viewpoint at Khao Yai. I think this is one of the few times I ever took Tong to Khao Yai with me, and it's just her posing with some huge beetle we found beside the road. Now, just remember, I was going through Khao Yai with a friend of mine called Warren, and we come across this solo elephant, which you don't see very often. You don't see them too often in the daytime. You don't see them too often on their own. But we come across this one on the trail, and for some reason I decided that I wanted to get a picture and I'd go chasing after it. So this elephant kind of like, it was standing there where I took this picture, and then all of a sudden its trunk went out straight in front of it, and its tail went out straight, and it's, you know, it obviously caught scent of us, and it ran off, and for some reason I went running after it. And I mean, I didn't get anywhere. This thing just charged through the bushes, and it was gone. So I sort of walked back to where Warren was waiting on the trail, and he said to me that as I run after it, I run through this bush, and this big cobra come out of the bush I just run from, and raised its hood up at him, and then lowered down, and then shot off into the undergrowth. So I just avoided sort of like running over this cobra. This was one of the two species of monitor lizard they've got in Thailand. They call this one Takuat. And this was just in the toilets at one of the campsites at Khao Yai, one of the little house scorpions. And these guys are some of the rangers I know. They used to like man the Klongi Tau ranger station. And the guy on the left is Chert, he's retired now, but he still lives at Khao Yai. He's very old now. The guy on the right is a guy called Lurk Chai, who I was told he died about 6 or 7 years ago. But they used to love a good drink. You can see all the bottles behind them, you know. So officially you weren't allowed to spend the night at the ranger station, but I knew that if I turned up with a bottle of whiskey, I'd always be made welcome. And this is a picture of one of the national park rangers. I think it might have been Lurk Chai and my friend Rob crossing this kind of like log that they'd put over, this kind of log bridge they'd made over a river on one of the jungle trails. And this is a picture of Chert, who's actually a real legend at Khao Yai. You know, he's killed 2 man-eating tigers in his career. He's now retired, but he still lives there. And this is just a picture of me in the forest somewhere in Khao Yai. And one night at Khao Yai, myself and Rob spent the night in this hide that was on top of a tree that overlooked a salt lick. I think it was a pretty fruitless endeavour. I don't think we got to see anything, but that is Rob on his way up the tree. Again, this is a picture of Chert at Klongi Tau. And this is Rob and Chert at Klongi Tau. And as you drove into Khao Yai National Park, they had all these signs across the road that kind of built up your expectations. And this one sort of roughly translates as the place where the tiger crosses the road. Now this tiger had actually killed 2 people, and it was eventually shot by my friend Chert. I think that happened in the late 70s, and you know, they took the body and turned it into a taxidermy, which is still on display to this day at the little museum thing they've got at the visitor centre. Here's some tiger pug marks, and this is tiger scat. You could always tell tiger scat because it was, you know, it was a carnivore, so it was always sort of a lot of hairs in it, you know, a lot of deer hairs or boar hairs. And this was a tiger territorial marker. You know, they used to make scrapings on the trail. They used to squirt urine up the trees, which you could smell. That was one of their territorial markers. And also they'd make these ones in the ground. And this is another tiger pug mark with one of the old film boxes as a size comparison. And this is a pug mark of a female tiger, big female tiger. And this pug mark was on one of the trails in Khao Yai when we were doing one of the tours, and I just remember it was so fresh. And I remember the tourists, I pointed it out to them, it's huge. And the tourists were like, "That tiger's on this trail?" I said, "Yeah." And then they said, "When?" And I said, "Well, you know, it must have been recent, you know. Look how fresh it is." And of course, you know, that was the trek took on a whole different atmosphere from that point onwards, you know what I mean? Everybody was sort of terrified at every step. Now, one day we'd found some tiger pug marks on the trail, and I decided that myself and a friend would return and try to stake out this tiger. You know, we knew they travelled around overnight. So we decided to climb up a tree. We bought this like a hammock thing. We decided that we'd climb up this tree and wait there all night with a spotlight for the tiger to go by and then shine the spotlight on it. Now, of course, all that happened was we just had this totally miserable night. You know, we couldn't get in the hammock properly, so we just stayed awake all night. And and all I remember is in the morning, it was just getting light, and this big hornbill, you know, obviously not expecting foreigners to be up in this tree, this big hornbill landed in the tree, and it landed right next to me, and like as soon as it landed, it spotted me, and I saw its eyes dilate, and then it just literally crapped itself and flew off. Now, ever since I'd started working in the national park, I'd always wanted to see a wild tiger, you know. Quite often we'd come across tiger scat, tiger pug marks. A couple of times I heard them, but you know, I'd never seen one, and I really wanted to see one, and eventually I did. Now, I have done a separate video where I talk exclusively about my tiger encounters and how I took these pictures. I will put a link to that video into the description area of this video. And I think this was probably the first time I spotted the tiger. It was about 200 meters away, but it becomes silhouetted against the bush. You can just see the tiger roughly in the centre of the frame, you know. I was just so excited to be able to see a wild tiger. It was just such a thrill. And this is the view looking from the Klongi Tau Ranger Station out across the grassland, which is where I got the pictures of that tiger. And here's another picture of the tiger, and it was probably about 100 metres away. It was probably, you know, we probably didn't get much closer than that to it, but absolutely incredible experience. And still to this day, I've never met another foreigner who's seen a wild tiger in Thailand. I've never met another person who's just actually taken a picture of a wild tiger in Thailand. Most of the pictures you see are from camera traps. And I think this was the best picture of the tiger I took, but unfortunately I lost the original slide, so this picture has been taken from an internegative I'd had made up so I could do some prints.